Welcome to White Space, DCD's weekly roundup of news from the data centre industry, with me, Peter Judge, Max Smolex, and our reporters Sebastian Moss and Michael Hurley. So, should we start with you, Max? For people looking for safety, we have a report this week on where the safest place is to build your data centre.
Yes, it's a very interesting report. It's a very interesting top 10. So these guys, Cushman Wakefield, they're a real estate management agency. They're huge, international, and some of the things they do involve data centers. So every 3 years or so, they publish a report about the safest places to host your data center. And I mean, they're doing it because they have loads of data, I guess. And they evaluated, I think, according to, there's 10 different metrics, things like, like security of power, political stability, how often the natural disasters strike this particular region. Mm-hmm. So, without further ado, the safest place in the world to host a data center at the moment is Iceland.
Iceland.
Not unexpected at all, I would say, but so the top 10 reads as follows: Iceland, Norway, Switzerland, Finland, Sweden, Canada, Singapore, Republic of Korea, United Kingdom, and then United States. What is interesting about this report? They did a similar report 3 years ago, mm-hmm. and the US was, I think, the safest place, and the UK came second, and now they're shifted to number 9 and number 10.
All those other places. That's safe in terms of, well, okay.
It's a whole range of factors, and they all have different weighting. I mean, the report is free. We have a news story on the site, and through that story you can access the report. 37 countries in total. The other very important component of the report, of course, is the riskiest places to host a data center.
Oh, right, yes.
And I mean,
I assume they only consider places where people might actually think of putting a data center.
Yes, but as our CEO George said, like if you need a data center in China, you need a data center in China. But the top 5 worst places to host a data center, according to the report: Nigeria, India, China, Turkey, and Indonesia.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a combination of factors like, like natural disasters, unsecure power grids, and general political upheaval. So,
yes, I mean, that's leaving out a lot of places where there is scarcely any government. There are a lot of African countries that are more risky than Nigeria, I would have thought.
Yes. Obviously.
Island nations that are due to be drowned by global warming. And that's remaining on planet Earth. So France wasn't on the list.
Not in the top 10. It's obviously on the list, but I think it's somewhere in the middle of the table.
Right. Okay. Because I've been talking to Data4 in Paris. They think that it's about time Paris moved up the rankings of attractiveness a bit. They've got a large campus outside of Paris that used to be an Alcatel-Lucent research centre. Right, so Data4 has 110 hectares, it's got space for a lot of data centres there, and it's building another 3 in the next 18 months. So that's 100 million euros investment, and interestingly they say over the last 3 months they've added they've measured their customers in power, they've added 6 megawatts of power in the last 3 months, which is, I mean, that's sort of, it's numbers like that you have to put them in context, and the context is that over the whole of the last year, everybody in Paris, all the data centres in Paris only added 2 megawatts. So, they think that there's been like a sort of a slowdown and a depression because people don't trust the cloud, and they're not really seeing the necessity of being in France as opposed to other places. But that's sort of slightly unbottled now. The cloud is more trusted, and also people are realising the value of being close to your customers, so latency and speed. So Paris becomes more attractive in future, they reckon.
Yes, absolutely, and I guess it's going to welcome some of the companies that if they want to leave London, they have a good place to go.
Stop talking about leaving London. Nobody's leaving London. Right. Although Michael's been hearing about a data centre in France as well.
Yeah. not too far away in western France, jumping on the highly efficient French network of trains. We go to Normandy, and I think it's Le Havre in Normandy, where this French data center is investing quite heavily in recycling batteries that were once used in Nissan Leaf electric vehicles. I think the line they're using is that they're giving a second life to these batteries, where they can employ technology. I think it's Eaton who are developing the infrastructure whereby they can get the power stored in these batteries out and using it for various benefits in a data center, such as peak shaving, where they'll cut off energy supply from the grid at particularly expensive points in the supply chain.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Eaton's been pushing this quite hard for the last couple of years, and I think General Motors is talking about doing similar things in the States. So I believe they've got less far with it, and Nissan have been involved in it from the start. The idea being that, I mean, if there's a large surge in use of electric cars, eventually the batteries, the charging cycle degrades, so they're no longer really good enough for sort of running a car that needs a lot of energy stored to be able to deliver it fast and accelerate. But the batteries still perform, they store charge well enough. They're sort of like on 80% of it, what they could originally do. And they can go on like that for a few years. So these rechargeable batteries have quite a long life. And the EU and France figure in your story, don't they?
Yeah, no, it has been quite an EU heavy week, which is always fun while we're still there. But no, yeah, so they put money into that. They've also announced 450 million euros they're going to spend on a new cybersecurity initiative, and they're hoping to also get another 1.35 billion euros from private partnerships to, essentially we've got a big digital single market. Obviously, for hackers and general cyber threats, that's a lovely gold mine of information, personal data, just all-round disruption. So, and the internet is inherently insecure. So, let's actually put some money into fixing it and trying to save it. The question is, of course, with the UK, we don't know once those initiatives start to pay off if we're going to actually get anything from that, because we might not be in the digital single market. But everyone's for a safer, more secure internet. A more secure digital system.
And similarly, it's a global problem. What's the impact of a regional body like the EU making this particular thing? Is it something that's going to be available to people around the world, or will it create a benefit to being in the single market, or what?
I think that's always the issue with when it's public and private. The private corporations, if they're putting 1.35 billion euros into something, they're going to want some kind of control over it. So the question is, if you're a university or a public institution, you can also get involved. You can maybe get some security things that hopefully be open source. But if you're a big company, it might be locked to you, for you know.
But as they're global companies, they want to be able to market to use this worldwide.
I mean, security. Yeah. Whenever there are security advances, it really benefits everyone.
Right. Okay. So it's time probably to say a little something on Brexit, I guess. Which was, this week I went to a meeting, a dinner with Tech UK, and obviously the subject was going to be mentioned because the British tech industry, to all intents and purposes, has been sort of pretty much solidly behind the idea of remaining in the EU. Although I did actually find I was meeting people I knew there who would quietly tell me that they thought that exiting could lead to some very good stuff in future, and they were sort of dismissing any short-term difficulties that seem to be happening at the moment. But very much the strategic line that came from Tech UK President Jacqueline de Rochas was that when we start to work out what will be happening, what we want is investment into UK businesses. We want UK businesses to have the available movement. We want people to be able to use data center companies across Europe. Really want to be able to employ people from wherever they are to get the best skills. And they also want access to a single market for both sort of products and services, and also to have some way of the bit that it has an effect outside the tech industry is the fact that GDPR, we need to make sure we are in that to the extent that we can be, in order that all businesses can use data that is stored of their customers to sell things across Europe. Although, and once again, let's say in the short to medium term, we're still part of all those regulations, and if everybody quietly forgets about it and never gets around to pressing the button, we remain in it forever with just a sort of somewhat tarnished world reputation.
Wouldn't it be great? Yeah.
Although, I think one way of seeing an interesting little kind of microcosm study of how people might fall on the question of Brexit in the EU is you can look at the EU as either the last great bastion of anti-monopoly, stopping monopolies forming, stopping oligopolies, or you can look at them as meddling bureaucrats getting involved where they shouldn't be. And you had that with Equinix. Equinix bought Telecity. European Commission said, now you have too many data centers in Europe, and they had to sell them. So as of finally, if you've been reading our website for a while, it's been going on for a bit, but they finally sold 8 of their data centers to Digital Realty.
And they bought one from Digital Realty.
Yeah,
right? That's an interesting point.
It's a very strange thing, and it'd be curious from a European Commission perspective how they say that data center is okay, that data center is not okay, because as we all know, all data centers are not the same. But yeah, they had to give away something they just bought to their competitor.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were fans of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, Digital Realty has only really become a competitor of Equinix recently. It bought Telex and has moved more away, so as well as doing wholesale data centers, it's going into the retail business, which means it's more of a competitor than it was. And so that data center that went the other way, that
the one in Paris, incidentally,
yes,
right?
back in Paris, that Equinix bought from Digital Realty, and that's because they were the tenant there. So it's basically it would make very little sense for Digital Realty to carry on having them as a tenant when they're a competitor. So it sort of smoothed out that junction between them. And my feeling is that the bureaucracy actually can make this stuff more sort of visible and accountable than it otherwise might be. A quick word about Wales. A data centre we've been following for some time, NGD, has a new owner.
It's been acquired by, incidentally, a Paris-based capital investment company, Infravia Capital Partners, rumoured £100 million deal. It's actually claimed for some time to be Europe's largest data centre, this data centre in Newport in Wales, but it seems to about to lose that status, even if it is almost a self-imposed status. I'm not sure if it's been entirely verified. However, it's about to lose that to a Norwegian centre, but this massive data centre has been acquired by Infravia. It's acquired a majority shareholding stake, but a lot of the staff and a lot of the board members that were originally there under NGD are going to remain in place. I think it's kind of business as usual in that respect, but also in terms of the investment, the £100 million investment, I think it's going to go apparently to building another data centre, rumoured to be either in Wales or in the southwest, and also developing custom in North America as well. So that's kind of interesting to watch what happens, what comes out of this deal.
Yeah, I mean that figure is an unofficial one that came out of the Welsh press. So we should
also £100 million is what, like $20,000 now.
So that's all for this week from Whitespace. We'll see you next week, and thank you for joining us.
Bye bye.